Well, here's a few news articles that I thought were interesting. I thought this was extremely interesting. This is an article about what's happening inside Russia from a former CIA worker on Russia who used to deal with Putin and his gang directly, I think. And it's far more interesting and insightful than the news articles I normally read, where one thing that I heard a report, they say Putin actually told this, I think, to Biden at one of the conferences. He said, we have white skin like you Americans, so you think that we think like you, but we do not think like you. And I think it's very interesting. He points out here how the reason Putin rose to power is that he arranged a false flag operation, killing 300 and injuring 1,000 of his own people by bombing a large building inside Russia so he could blame it on other people and then invade them. So this is why Reagan called them the evil empire. They do things that are unthinkable around here. And that's how Putin rose to power, which is why he probably couldn't care less about the innocent people he's killing in Ukraine or the death of his own soldiers. And now he's getting close to having a purge because he's imitating Stalin openly. And Stalin had purges where he just executed a bunch of his own generals and staff, and Putin does not trust the army. And he has jailed the leaders of the army for embezzling the money instead of equipping the troops and misrepresenting the likelihood of success in Ukraine, both of which are probably quite justified charges. But the part that is quite unfair is that nobody can tell Putin the truth about anything. He'll only listen to letting you tell him what he wants to hear. So you're kind of in a hopeless position. But anyway, it's very interesting. And as they point out, what we're doing is backing Putin into a corner where he fears more and more that those around him will turn on him. And the problem is that will probably just make him more desperate. And since he has doesn't have any of the guardrails that we would like him to have, like any concern for human life or any reluctance to use chemical weapons or probably even nuclear weapons, it's difficult to know what desperation move he will do. But anyway, it's quite an informative article. And this one here was also very interesting, something I've read several articles and books about. The point of Kremlin disinformation isn't to make you believe it exactly. The point is to make you exhausted so you just ignore politics and ignore the news, and therefore they can just get away with things. And they say what Putin is counting on is, even though everybody is really mad about Ukraine right now, he knows that Americans are shallow and vain and preoccupied with their own trivial lives of luxury, and he can assume that pretty soon we'll just get bored with it and we'll move on to other things, and then he can just finish killing everybody and nobody will care, which is what usually happens. And that, I think, is where he has underestimated Zelensky, because Zelensky, being an entertainer, knows this, and he knows how to keep himself in the headlines. And that's why this is really being fought on the internet and in the media as much as on the ground. And by the way, here are some terms that are worth knowing. Disinformation tactics. Tukok is the U2 hypocrisy challenge. This is a huge one. You hear it a lot on Fox News from Tucker Carlson and such, and all the time from Trump. If you said you're doing something bad, he said, well, you do something bad too. So there is no real right and wrong. There's no rules. Nothing. Doing bad things doesn't matter because I can blame you as well. And then retconning, where you take the past and rewrite it in terms of the future. Yes, I think Zelensky probably will be Times Man of the Year. And, I think right now, I think more and more people are trying to buddy up to Zelensky and claim that they're on his team because he's so successful politically, which is a huge thing. And here's another one. Predictive projection is flying a false flag in the future. And this is how the Biden administration has been doing a very good job in the information war of leaking what the Kremlin is about to do. So when they do it, it doesn't work so well, at least outside Russia. And this is the predictive projection where the reason why everyone expects Russia to use chemical weapons very soon in Ukraine is because they've been accusing Ukraine of having chemical weapons plants. They're from the CIA and the US. And this is, of course, faithfully repeated by Kremlin mouthpieces like Tucker Carlson in the United States and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republicans who have for some reason, decided to just parrot anything that comes from the Kremlin. They somehow think they're going to succeed that way, which started with Trump. A very strange place for the Republican Party to be, and more Republicans are trying not to be on Putin's side here, without openly breaking with Trump. So we'll see how that goes, but I think they will be able to just change the subject and get away from it. Anyway, it's very interesting to learn these techniques and give them names and try to spot them when you see them. Good, and I see he's made a Discord so people can sign up to compete in this competition, which I think would be great. All right. And there's a SOC class, a security class. Is pay what you can, so I guess that means you can get it for cheap or free. You might want to check it out, see if you want to take that. This is John Strand. He's very well known, so it's probably going to be a very good class. Oh, you went through it. Oh, good. And it is really good. Yeah, it sounded pretty good. Good. And so apparently the FBI says that Russian hackers have scanned the networks of 5 U.S. energy firms. Biden has been warning us more and more urgently to expect attacks from Russia, cyber attacks on Russia in American infrastructure. So there's evidence that it's already begun. They've already begun scanning to find vulnerabilities. So we can expect them to do some form of hacking attacks pretty soon. And it was the same thing. This is the point. Biden has been right on. He's been releasing high-quality information about Putin's tactics in Ukraine that have been accurate very much different than previous presidents who were influenced by the spooks who always want to keep everything secret so they wouldn't release the information. But Biden's been doing it. And here's the point. He points out that it's very likely that he's going to use chemical weapons. And it's not off the table that he might use nuclear weapons. And one problem is, so far, I don't think anybody knows what we should do about it if he uses chemical weapons or nuclear weapons. There doesn't seem to be any obvious answer, any easy answer. And of course, what Putin is hoping is that we'll just do nothing. Anyway, I think that's enough. Let me stop this.